you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. Have you been enjoying this, weather that we're having today?
I am. It's finally nice to get some
Mm.
good weather and not cold and stuff. So,
Yeah, to me, I just feel like it was a little too cold this morning. I don't really,
yeah,
like the cold too much.
me either.
Yeah. All right. So before we get started, I really just want to remind you, about confidentiality. Whatever you say stays between us. Unless it brings harm to a child, yourself, an elder, or if I had to be subpoenaed for, your records or anything like that.
Okay.
So before we begin, I just want you to state what your problem is. I know we've been over it a few times. Just want you to, restate everything.
Okay. Well, basically, when I get around like a lot of people at one time, I get really nervous and scared and really overwhelmed. Like, I can't even stay in the library for a long time because a lot of people eventually end up coming, and it really makes me scared. Even at work, like it's a lot to be around a lot of people.
So what I'm getting is that when you're trying to do work at school or work any kind of activities at your job, it's like whenever a lot of people get around, you start to just feel overwhelmed to the point that it's hard for you to complete anything.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And before we get any further, I just wanted to go back over with the goal that you have. And it stated that you want to improve your anxiety level so that you can, go to work and school with no difficulties, right?
Hmm.
Alright. And we did the anxiety screening test, and you made a 34. And a week before we, terminate our sessions, I'm going to get you to do it again so we can see if there was a change made. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the test that you were supposed to do, how did that go for you last week?
I think they went pretty good. I think I did. I mean, it was still kind of hard, but I could see some improvement with completing the test. So,
And the test that we had, you had to come up with a coping method and implement it whenever you're around a lot of people and you feel overwhelmed and fearful and like around a lot of people. So which coping method did you come up with?
so I tried. I know this sounds really simple, but it did help me a little bit. Like when I was at work and it started to get busy and a lot of people started to come in. What I did was I went to the bathroom for like a minute and I just went in there and I counted to 10, like with my eyes closed, to really just relax. And then when I went back out there, I felt a little better. I was still a little nervous, but it did help a little bit. So,
So what I'm getting is that you came up with the counting method to count to 10. You took a breather. You got yourself together. It kind of settled your nerves a little bit.
it did. Yeah, it did. And that compared to not having any coping mechanism at all, I think that really helped. So,
And that is good. So another task that you had was to attend small crowds with like a lot of people, either with by yourself or with friends, like 3 times a week for maybe 30 to an hour. How did that go for you last week?
so I only went once last week. My school has this thing called Pretty Wednesday where everybody comes out and they have like a DJ and Greeks are strolling and stuff like that. So I went to that for with one of my friends. That was like 2 hours, I think, but I was out there the whole time. I was getting a little nervous at first, but after I just took a breath, I was doing good. But I did only go once last week, so I'll work on that for next week.
So would you say that your friends kind of helped you not be so nervous because you were with them?
Yeah, I think it helped because that's somebody that I'm comfortable with, and when you're around somebody you're comfortable with, you're a little bit more relaxed. So
friends help make you more comfortable compared to being by yourself.
Yeah, or just around strangers.
Yes, and that's good. So, thank you for sharing with me, and I really appreciate that. So, I would say that your week kind of was good. You know, you found a new coping method. You counted to 10. It helped settle your nerves when you were at work. How about when you were at school? Did you have a chance to use that coping method at school by chance?
I did when I was in the library one time. I had to actually step out and do that because I was getting really overwhelmed, but I knew I had to finish this assignment because it was due, excuse me, the next day. So I knew I had to stay in there and finish it, and if I didn't, then I was gonna fail. So I did actually have to go and step out and do that, and it did help me. And I finished my assignment too, so
And that was good.
yeah, that was good.
So, how long did it, were you in the library for to complete your assignment?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, yeah, and that's good. And how many, were there a lot of people in there, like about a number, how many would you say?
I would say the floor of the library that I was on, there was about like 20 people, maybe. But we were all kind of like in a close area.
Yeah.
It wasn't as spread out like opposed to like the other levels of the library, so.
So I remember you said that you went to Pretty Wednesday, and that's a small crowd with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you were in the library with 20 people, don't you think that's like a small crowd too?
I guess it could be. I guess I was comparing it to that event that had like way more than 50 people.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I didn't consider it an event that had like a lot of people, you know, especially because the library, you know, it's a school library.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that would mean you kind of went to two small places with a crowd. So you kind of met your goal halfway. So that's good.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about it that way.
So, so I know there was a barrier that you had, and it is when you ever feel overwhelmed and everything, you avoid the situation like you stated when you're in the library doing your homework, you will leave without completing it. Do you think that you did good with challenging your barrier this week?
I think I did, especially with using that coping technique that I came up with. I think that really helped me to challenge my barrier because when I used the coping technique, you know, I didn't walk out or I didn't just leave my problem. I actually faced it, sort of. So.
Okay. So now I just want to talk about some strengths that I noticed during this session from, you know, the task that you had to complete last week. So one that I would say is that you coming up with a coping method and using it at the appropriate time when you were feeling overwhelmed and, you know, fearful when you were a lot of people. I really appreciate you, you know, taking the time to actually do it when you felt that way instead of, you know, just avoiding the situation altogether. Yeah. Do you notice any other strengths that you may have noticed for your task that you did last week?
No, I think that was one of my strengths. I think the fact that I even did that really shocked myself, you know, that I even had the courage to just face my problem like that, I think, so.
Yeah, that's good. Do you see any weaknesses from last week that you can think of?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a weakness, but I think it's just room for improvement.
Yeah.
You know, like I started off good, but I know I could do better, you know. Cause I mean, I still get a little nervous and a little scared, even though like the intensity of it is decreased. Like I want to get it down to 0, so.
And that's good. So next week, you're gonna just negotiate what we're gonna do next week? you're gonna come up with a new coping method that you're gonna implement when you're around a lot of people and, you know, you start to feel overwhelmed and everything. And also, you're gonna try to attend 3 more places, again, with small crowds and everything, okay?
Okay, I think I can do that.
Okay, that's good. And I also wanna thank you again for agreeing to this video session. And, you know, I really hope you have a good day today.
Thank you. I hope you do too.